Hi, I'm Brian King, and welcome to Marriage Monday. Today, I want to open up a new series and start talking about something that my wife and I call love habits. And basically, it's the things that we do to make sure that we maintain our relationship. Now, I'm calling this the introduction because I'm going to spend like 7 or 8 weeks going over individual love habits, but I wanted to give you an overview of why love habits are important and why we have to have them in our lives. For instance, compare it to growing a garden. You get married is like planting a garden, and you don't just leave it. You wouldn't have much of a garden if you just kind of left it to do whatever. No, you habitually go back and you weed and you water and you do all these other things to maintain it. Marriage is kind of the same way. It's like with a small business. There's a lot of things that you just have to habitually do. You've got record keeping, you've got to fulfill orders, you've got to do all of these things. Otherwise, you don't really have a business left anymore if you don't maintain it. And, marriage is a lot like that. When I was starting to get ready to do this, my wife said, make sure you don't sound too perfect, like you've got it all together. And I just had to laugh because the whole reason that I'm doing this is because we didn't have a clue how to be married. We wanted to be married, we got married, and we just jumped right in with both feet and basically sunk. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have good examples. We had some examples, but we didn't know that there were things you needed to do in order to maintain your marriage. And because of that, we learned a lot of things the hard way. I mean, we had fights over little things. We had fights over big things. We had all the big fights, fought over the finances. We fought over sex. We fought over, where to go for Christmas. We fought over, vacations and what to do, where to go, how to, everything. It could be little, it could be big, it could be because it was the time of the month, just pick a topic, we're going to fight. It didn't matter. We had a lot of ups and downs in our marriage. And that's why I want to tell you about these love habits, because this is kind of what got us out of that kind of trouble. And like right now, today, it's not that we don't fight anymore or have disagreements or argue. It's just that they only last like 5 minutes. We don't always agree on things because we are different. My wife is extremely different from me, and I'm extremely different from her. It all depends on your perspective. And it's not a matter of right and wrong. It's just a matter of we're different. So we're going to clash sometimes. And we've learned over the years that we needed to develop these habits. And otherwise, we wouldn't grow. And that's the thing about marriage, is it's a perfect opportunity for each of you to grow. And that's what I'm trying to present with all of the work I'm doing with the Marriage Mondays, with the Winning Wednesdays. I'm really happy with how those are going. And then the 5 Things Friday, just kind of keep it on the light side. But the important thing is that your marriage gets to grow. Now, for us, like I said, we learned a lot of things the hard way. And, back in the beginning, from when we first got married, everything was fine for a while. We had the honeymoon phase. And then we found out that we didn't always agree on everything. And we'd have little fights. And it's like, it wasn't horrible. It was just, we didn't agree and we didn't know what to do about it. Well, that's one of the things we had to learn. And we had to learn how to basically fight fair, how to resolve our problems without turning it into World War III. For us, what usually happened was that, she would end up crying in the bathroom and I would end up, just walking away and cooling down. And eventually would come back together and figure it out. But sometimes it took a few days, sometimes it was a few hours, and it was not fun. And then from my point of view, I figured, well, I know we don't agree on that topic, and if it comes up, we're going to fight about it. problem solved. I'm just not ever going to bring that up, whether it was the finances or how to deal with the kids or a problem we were having around the house. If I knew we were going to fight about it, if it came up, because at the time we didn't know how to deal with it, I would just like stonewall her completely. And I thought I was being a great husband because, hey, we're not fighting about that. But in the process, she felt like, he doesn't care. And, that was not true. I did care. I cared so much that I didn't want to fight about it, so I avoided it. And unfortunately, avoidance isn't a good strategy. As a matter of fact, it doesn't work because eventually it comes to a head and then you have to talk about it because it explodes and you have to clean up. And, that's, if you do that over and over enough, you get tired of it. And the love habits that we develop that I'm going to be talking about over the next 7 or 8 weeks on Marriage Mondays are basically the way that we got through that. The good thing we had going for us is we both wanted our marriage to work and neither of us left. That is the key. We both wanted it to work and we didn't give up. We had opportunities to, that's for sure. There were times when I was sure she was heading, packing a bag and heading back home to mom's house. And, I felt like she was really mad and didn't want to solve the problem. And she felt like I was being horribly unloving and didn't care. And it just took time to figure out how, to fight fair, how to resolve our problems without stonewalling or ignoring it. That's not a good strategy either. And over time, just because we wanted to stay together, we wanted a good marriage, and because we didn't leave, I think that's one of the main reasons that we figured things out. We didn't have an option. We had to figure it out or we wouldn't have stayed married. And there's a better way to do it. Like I said, we learned so many things the hard way. But that's what I'm talking about when I say we needed to develop love habits. And like I said, it's the same if you plant a garden or run a business, or even big companies have to do things habitually to maintain their status as a big company. It all comes down to what you're doing, the things you do daily, weekly, monthly, semi-annually, annually. And when you put all those together, if you keep working on it, you build something. And once you've built something, like I said, it kind of puts money in the bank. It puts, gas in the tank, money in the bank, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. We are invested in each other. She knows that I'm not going anywhere. This bump in the road is not anything but a bump in the road. It's just a bump in the road. It's not like we're going to go in the ditch. It's going to be okay. So then we can come together, and because we've been consistently, putting the money in the bank, doing all of these things that I'm going to be talking about, from that point of view, we can avoid a lot of trouble. And that's a good thing, because once you learn to avoid trouble, then you can talk about the finances. You can talk about anything. And there might be a bump in the road, but you've got something invested in it. So I want to encourage you to listen to these next few weeks, because that's basically where we came from. We were at a place where we had to figure it out, and we did. And we came up with strategies that worked. And having strategies that work is probably one of the greatest things that you can do for your marriage. Like I said, I've been married for 38 years, And because of these strategies, the latter part of most of those years has been really good. And once we figured out that we need to do these things and we started doing them, the road just kept getting smoother and smoother. And like I said, now we don't stonewall each other. We might have some bumps in the road. She doesn't have to go cry in the bathroom for a few hours trying to figure me out. And I don't have to go blow off steam and hide from her so that we don't fight. It's much, much better. And it's because we took the time to develop love habits. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet. It's not because of a surprise, but they kind of build on each other. And the first one, I will tell you that for next week, is maintaining an emotional connection. So that's next week's topic. So thank you for listening to the introduction, and we'll see you next week on Marriage Monday, talking about maintaining your emotional connection. See you next time. Bye.